Good afternoon. It's still 6 o'clock. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for coming on. My name is Dr. Slade, April Slade. I am the director of K-12 Social Studies. My team, I have Miss Tiffany Evans. She's a specialist, and I have Miss Jessica Brothers also as a specialist. For my high school 11th grade U.S. history, understanding the U.S. history and of course assessment. Again, my name is Dr. April Slade. For those coming in, I'm the director of K-12 Social Studies. In the Office of Social Studies, I have two specialists, Jessica Brothers and Tiffany Evans. What is U.S. history? So U.S. history is the primary content emphasis for this course is history from the Reconstruction to present day. Students will be exposed to the historical, geographic, political, economic, and sociological events. Just to give you just a little background, middle school U.S. history ends in Civil War and Reconstruction. High school U.S. history starts at U.S. Civil War and Reconstruction. So that's just something that we want to discuss, which is why we focus so much on the foundation and the concepts in middle school to make them strong in high school. For U.S. history, students will clearly see a relationship between cause and effect and historical events. They will have an opportunity to review fundamental ideas and events which occurred before the end of Reconstruction and afterwards. What does it look like in our school district? All high school students must take 1 year of U.S. history. It is a graduation requirement. It's given the 11th grade year. It's a year-long course. Again, the end of course assessment will count for 30% of the student's final course grade. What can my student expect on the end of course assessment? Again, it's an adaptive test. It's an adaptive assessment, same way, just like middle school civics. So that means that it's on complexity levels. For an example, the student could start off with a moderate complexity level question. If they get it right, it could go up to high complexity. If they get it wrong, it could go down to low complexity level. This is not saying that the student will fail the assessment. The goal is for them to get the questions correct. Of course, the moderate and the high complexity level questions carry more weight than the low complexity. It will be all multiple choice. They will have graphics on the assessment. It's one session. Students get at least 160 minutes, but there is no time for EOCA. So if students need to take 4 or 5 hours on the test, they could take the test, go to lunch, come back and finish the test. They do not have to submit there. So we do not want to rush them. For the U.S. history assessment, there are 50 to 60 questions. We are not sure. And there are multiple versions of the assessment. So students, when they sit down, they will not have the same test, like far as the computer. It will be different assessments. For the cognitive complexity levels, we have, again, low, that at 25 to 30% of the assessment, moderate 45 to 65%, and high 15 to 25%. What do I mean by low complexity? That's recall. So that's just pretty much our basic recall definitions. Students can use a chart, table, diagram to recall information, and they will identify characteristics. For moderate complexity, they will be doing cause and effect relationships, identifying outcome, identifying significance of the historical events. They could be doing some categorization, some determining a relationship between historical events, actions, and personalities. They will be doing some explanations and identifying, again, similarities and differences. That's where those Venn diagrams come in social studies that we do. So what are differences and then what is the similarities? For high complexity, they will be solving or predicting the outcome of a problem, generalizations and drawing conclusions, providing justification, predicting a long-term result of outcome, some analyzation, recognizing and explaining, and analyzing, again, similarities and differences. They will be using graphics such as political cartoons, graphs, charts, tables, maps, photographs, diagrams, and illustrations. For example, look at this example that they could see on the test. The table below provides information about the African American population in several cities after the Civil War. It says population of African Americans in select cities from 1880 to 1930. They will have to look at this chart. They are using charts and tables and graphs in their U.S. history classroom. So looking at this, we have the years on the left column, and then we have in the top columns, we have the actual cities: Chicago, Detroit, New York, and Pittsburgh. So they will look at this, which condition in society was primarily responsible for the change in urban population. So by looking at this, they should automatically know that there was no absence of ag employment in southern communities, the lack of political representation at this time in southern communities, um, and the prevalence of racial equality in northern cities, because the teacher had already spoken with them in reference to the population in several cities. This is after the Civil War, so this is more Reconstruction. It was the availability of job opportunities in northern cities. So that was a primary responsible change in urban population at this time. Students should, that's a drawing a generalization. So that's more of a high complexity question, but students should do well, hopefully, on this. Test item specs. What is tested on the test? The state has given a list of test item specs. The great thing with U.S. history is that the benchmarks has not changed over the years. So whereas civics has new benchmarks, U.S. history has remained the same. So they will be tested on the following reporting categories: the late 19th and early 20th century from 1860 to 1910, global military, political, and economic challenges, 1890 to 1940, in the U.S. in the defense of the international peace, 1940 to 2010. A sample item again that they could see, this political cartoon depicts a social issue in U.S. history. You notice child labor employer on his suit, on his arm. You will see a son in the background. Just pay close attention. You even see a hand and it's mashing down, right? It said, with which social issue is this cartoon associated? So students should automatically know, yes, this is dealing with the second industrial revolution, but it is not the power of political machines during it. It is not the influence of immigration, because this man is pushing down, right? The influence of suffrage reformers during the Gilded Age. Again, he's a child labor employer and he's pushing down. This is the power of big businesses during the second industrial revolution. The teachers teach on the second industrial revolution, and the students should automatically be able to think about this, look at this, think about what they learned using their Cuban strategy, their context clues, and draw this out again. So again, when we teach in our U.S. history and our civics or any middle school course for social studies, we're teaching at the high complexity level off of Bloom's taxonomy. We're not teaching them at low complexity. We want to actually start at the top, and then we want to make sure we bring our students up to where they should be. Again, the U.S. history lowest performing benchmarks, there were 8 of them that I asked for my U.S. history teachers to ensure that they remediate and reteach before they take the U.S. history EOC assessment. The first one was 6.9. It says, describe the rationale for the formation of the United Nations, including the contribution of Mayor McLeod Bethune. Examples may include, but are not limited to, the Declaration of Human Rights. Some items that students missed on this was the aims and structure of the United Nations. So they need to understand how the United Nations was structured, the draft of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and Mayor McLeod Bethune's influence in assisting with the creation of it. So I asked again my teachers to go back and touch on this before the students take a test. 6.10, that's identifying or evaluating the economic, political, social, and economic causes of the Cold War, looking at significant events, identifying and evaluating the long-term social, political, economic implications of it, looking at varying points of view, the impact and the events of the early Cold War. One thing that I noticed students missed was the causes of the Cold War, the events in the Cold War, NATO versus Warsaw Pact, division of Germany, impact of the Cold War, Red Scare, fall of China, foreign policy events such as the Eisenhower Doctrine, Sputnik, Berlin Wall, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. So again, I asked my teachers to go back and reteach this. We do have remediation lessons on this topic. But I asked for the parents as well to ensure that when your student comes home, the teachers will be probably sending some things home with them, but just make sure that they touch on these benchmarks that they did not do well on. Another benchmark, 4.5, the causes of World War I, the reasons for the United States to involve themselves in World War I, the cause and effect of relationships, the analyzation of short and long-term social, political, and economic consequences of it, and again, identifying significant individuals and their role in World War I or during World War I. So we're looking at causes of World War I, America's involvement in the war, Wilson's 14 points, the German submarine warfare, economy and paying for war, civil rights, looking at Espionage Act and Sedition Act, minorities during World War I, the Treaty of Versailles, and the creation of the League of Nations. So again, teachers have to go back and touch on that. I'm asking for parents to do the same. 6.12, examining the cause, course, and consequences of the Korean War. Examples may include, but not limited to, Communist China, 38th parallel, ceasefire, the firing of General Douglas MacArthur. Some important items I feel like was missed when I looked at it was Korean War, division after World War II, North Korea versus South Korea, and the Panmunjom truce. So I'm asking again for teachers, look at this, parents, ensure when your child comes home 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes a day, 3 to 4 days a week, they're doing some type of reading or activity on this to understand, because again, these ones that they did not do well on is probably a guarantee. These will definitely be our moderate and our high complexity questions. 6.2, examining the significance of specific wartime events and actions on the home front and progress of World War II. Students need to understand neutrality acts, cash and carry, and the Lend-Lease Act. That was something that they just did not do well on. This is just defining and knowing. This is low complexity, but if you can just touch on that. 6.5, examining the impact of World War II on domestic policy. Examples could be some rationing, national security, civil rights, increased job opportunities for African Americans, women, Jews, and other refugees. Students will evaluate the long-term influences of the war on domestic and international affairs. I want them to look at Florida's involvement in World War II with Camp Blanding, the Selected Service System, A. Philip Randolph and his involvement in March on Washington, Decorah Masu versus U.S., Brasseros Program, and Executive Order 1966. So these are things I'm asking for the teachers to go back and touch on with the students. Again, this could be moderate or high complexity, so I want to make sure that they understand it. 3.4, new industries and economic innovations of the second industrial revolution and their impact on American economy and society. I want them to look at key industries such as steel, communications, electricity, oil, transportation, and women's involvement in African American inventors. So again, this goes back in a course, African American history supports our U.S. history along with history of Vietnam War and Holocaust. And so that's why all those students take this test in 11th grade. The 10th grade courses that they take is very, very important that they take those courses seriously. And I'm pushing my teachers to ensure that they help. Like, it's not just 11th grade course and it's 11th grade teachers. No, this is building upon. So from 9th grade world to 10th grade African American history of Vietnam War and Holocaust education up until this is all a part of the 11th grade. So we have to all thematically work together. 5.8 was the last benchmark, comparing the views of Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey relating to the African American experience. They have to be able to compare and contrast the views of Booker T. Washington, where he urged African Americans to seek vocational trainings. W.B. Du Bois, he favored struggle among blacks for civil rights, and Marcus Garvey, the African Americans, he wanted to rely more on themselves and separate from whites. This is more of like a gallery walk or a Venn diagram. It's a very touchy subject, but the state wants them to understand the difference in it, of the views at that time. And so it's very important for, I'm pushing for my teachers again to do a gallery walk or a Venn diagram on this, some charts out to let the students to do some comparison and contrast. Again, this goes along, the compare and contrast could be low complexity or moderate complexity, but we want them to understand that. Some resources that to support the students at home. They could again go to CPALM's tutorials for any of the content areas, but the focus is U.S. history right now. There are 58 tutorials. They could actually need headphones or a quiet space to listen to the lessons and then answer the questions of benchmarks that they do not understand. So I ask parents to ensure that they touch on that. And then the FLVS website, our computer-based practice assessments that students could use. They also have their textbook online through blended learning. The National NGL Sync is what it's called. There are review sessions for all they could use. We have review lessons that we provide the teachers with. And I would email, once you do my survey, I'll email you some practice tests that the state has on their site. I'll send the directions of how to do those practice assessments for middle school civics and high school U.S. history for that. I want to thank you again from the Office of Social Studies. My name is Dr. April Slade. I'm the Director of K-12 Social Studies. I ask for all parents on this call to please use your phone, do this survey for me. I will ensure to email you everything that we talked about. She's going to post it and send it out to you as well. But I'll just put some links in it for you and some attachments for your understanding to use with your student at home. I want to thank you all. Again, my email is slade@duvalschools.org. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to students making a passing grade on their inner course assessment so they will not have to retake this course. Thank you all for attending. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me via email.